Clemens Tönnies is a successful businessman and the owner of a number of meat factories. He's also the head of soccer club Schalke 04. Last week, the Chamber of Commerce held an event about meat and the business that is around it. And he had given a speech speaking about the climate change hysteria. At the moment, we have a propaganda campaign against meat, and there is a lot of talk about how feeding cattle costs more in terms of CO2 emissions than eating vegetables. After the speech, the Green Party people were really concerned about meat, so they accused him of racism. I have translated the speech for you, so you can read it while it's played in German, and then I will have a short discussion about what he said.
Die Politik stellt die Weichen. Und wenn wir zwischen 20 und 27 Milliarden Euro investieren, um ein Beispiel zu geben, in die Welt hinaus, um 0,0016% CO2 bezogen auf den Globus zu verändern. Warum gehen wir eigentlich nicht her und geben das Geld dem Gerd Müller, unserem Entwicklungsminister, und der spendiert jedes Jahr 20 große Kraftwerke nach Afrika. Dann hören die auf, die Bäume zu fällen, hören auf, wenn es dunkel ist, wenn wir hier nämlich elektrifizieren, Kinder zu produzieren. Ich bin in Sambia gewesen, dort gibt es 14,6 Kinder pro Pärchen. Ja, was machen die, wenn es dunkel ist?
I'm totally against foreign aid, but this is not the point of criticism, of course. It is the racism of speaking about Africa and their birth rates. So his soccer club, Schalke 04, summoned a so-called honor council to figure out whether he could have broken any rules. After a couple of hours, they came back and claimed that no racism could be detected. So that was a big disappointment for the media and the activists. But that his comments would still break the discrimination provision of the soccer club. He himself, without the force of this strange honor council, retreated for 3 months and will resume his job as the president of the soccer club then. But this is seen as a cheap way out, and both his soccer club and its honor council are scolded for being too lenient with him. I must say that the Soviet Union had something similar, like an honor council that is a comrade court, that is how it is called. Some private citizens have to come together to judge their mate, and there is no real legal basis. I'm just mentioning this because what I thought at the first time when I saw Honor Council is that it is the perfect merge between the Soviet Union and the honor-obsessed Islamic culture. There is no legal obligation, of course, for a soccer club to have something like that, and I wonder how often they come together. So far, everybody who defended Mr. Tönnies could not admit that his words were perfectly okay and that he is free of any guilt. They all say maybe there is some true core in it, but the wording may not be correct, or it may be too rough, or whatever. But I don't quite see it. I don't understand what's the criticism. I want actually to know how you can tell Africans that they should breed less and work more and not be racist. I mean, there must be a way to criticize that and communicate what you want to them without being harassed for supposed racism. So what I really wanted to know from the left is, could you provide us a newspeak dictionary that includes a phrase, a word, whatever, with which we can tell Africans to breed less and to work more? How do we do this? Because at some point it has to be done. You cannot just shut us up and claim that it's just the wording, when in reality it isn't the wording. It has never been the wording. It was always about the content, and that is that you do not want to hear criticism of these people. There's also this claim that Mr. Tönnies is factually wrong and that there is no connection between power blackouts and hikes in the birth rate. Snopes claims that the supposed myth came from a blackout, a great blackout in New York City of 1965. And after that, a number of catastrophes, storms, and so on were taken as evidence that spikes in birth rates were correlated with certain events. But a closer look to it would all deny these findings and would not find exceptional patterns. However, I have found a study by Alfredo Borlando, who does not want to be quoted because it is incomplete. And I must say it is very, very difficult to actually find cohesive data on this. You have to look into many power blackouts and also have to check out the birth rates in the hospitals nearby, and also try to find the patterns, really, because after 1965, when this blackout in New York occurred, the baby pill boomed, and power blackouts became ever fewer occasions. The Western mindset has changed tremendously. So there are a number of things to take into account. So could there still be a correlation between blackouts and birth rates? That would be true for Africa, so that it makes sense. And Mr. Borlando of the University of Oregon had looked into a big blackout for many days in Zanzibar and found that there was an increase in birth for 20%. 20%. And it is, of course, not a conclusive study. It is always very difficult. It is, as I said, a scarcely researched field, and that may have to do with a taboo. But what he says is that already in his study, he can show that it is where power is usually on and power shortage occurs, that suddenly you have a spike in births 9 months after. Here's the data of the Nasi Modia maternity ward, which delivers 25% of all births in Zanzibar, and matched this data against the census of 2002. He also matched this against the labor force survey of 2007, the government survey. So despite Snopes' claim, there is some, let's say, circumstantial evidence that needs more research into it. And Mr. Borlando asks, of course, not to be quoted in a scientific manner, but it's just a step, a stone, a piece of research from where you can build more evidence. And this is something to look into in future. I will link the study below so you can check it out for yourself. And I see you soon. Bye.